Welcome, Nerds with Mike's fans. You're listening to episode 132. I'm Travis.
I'm Justin.
And we have a jam-packed show for you tonight. So we're going to be covering a few things. Justin obviously wasn't here last week. Justin, hope you're feeling better. Yeah, good. But we're going to get into a continued discussion around we're going to talk about Tears of the Kingdom, some impressions, because we want to hear what you have to say because we talked about it last week. But we're also going to talk into, we're going to dive kind of off of that into, is it possible for game maps or just games in general to be too big, and does size matter? And then we're going to talk about, then we're going to get into what we want to see from Sony's upcoming State of Play, which I do believe is on the 24th.
Wednesday, whatever day that is.
Yeah. But before we get into any of that, I just want to know, what have you been up to?
Well, first I want to say thanks to Maxwell for stepping in last week. Hopefully we'll have him join us again on a day that I can be here. I watched the episode. As you know, you're getting text messages, not comments from me because it wouldn't let me comment. But thank you for stepping in. And like I said, hope you come back. I'm going to start from last week's episode, and all the whole hour and a half episode, I'm going to just touch on. I'm just kidding. That would be something else, wouldn't it? So I've been playing a lot of Tears of the Kingdom. I have a lot of thoughts on this game. I'll save them for later on in the show because we're going to get to that. I've been playing For the King. If anyone is familiar with that, I've been playing with my friend Connor and Logan. We started up a campaign last week. It's an every Wednesday night thing. Have you played For the King before?
No, but it sounds cool.
You would love it. So it's
like D&D?
It is. Yeah. The new one actually comes out, I believe, later this year. And it's only like $20. I think right now it's on sale for $7 on Steam. So I highly recommend it.
Is it similar to like Divinity almost?
No. It's closer to D&D than it is Divinity.
Okay.
It's very much presented like a tabletop, and you have so many moves that you move, and things pop up. Like instead of having a game master or dungeon master, the game will throw these things at you on its own through RNG. So,
okay.
Highly recommend if you get the $7 one. I'm not like a sponsor. I just am a big fan. If you get the $7 one on Steam right now, it actually comes with a bunch of expansions. Like the one we're doing right now, it takes place on the sea. So there's a Kraken involved as well. So it's pretty cool. Highly recommend it. Watch the Dungeons and Dragons movie the other night, and I'm gonna be honest, I couldn't get into it.
Oh no, I was afraid you were gonna say that.
Yeah, I mean, I felt like it didn't really know what it wanted to be. I felt like it had an identity crisis. It didn't know if it wanted to be a comedy, a fantasy, or an action movie. And too often it would go on spurts where it was one of each one, but it rarely all three at the same time. I thought it was cast perfectly, and I enjoyed it, but like I just couldn't really get into it. We do have a comment here from Justin, longtime listener, first time caller. No, he says, "Good afternoon to us. Good afternoon to you, sir." I also went on a little guys' weekend a couple weeks ago with my boys, Chatty Cakes, Logan, and Corey.
I haven't heard Chatty Cakes.
Chad Cakes, attorney at law. And we went to this pizza place in Cincinnati, and I'm telling you, I think we ordered everything on the menu. Justin says I'm crazy. It's a great movie. I liked it. I just couldn't get into it. I do apologize. It wasn't in my top 10 list for the year, but it was okay. But we ordered everything off the menu. I left there thinking, like when like a whale washes up on shore and they got to be careful because it might just explode. Yes. I was the whale. Like I was on the verge of just exploding. But then we went and we made bourbon at Brain Brew in it's near Cincinnati, in northern Kentucky, somewhere up there. But yeah, we did that. Chad Cakes is having a baby soon, Chad Cakes Jr. So we went up there to celebrate him and that new little baby that he's going to have. So it was a good time for all. Had you not moved to Atlanta, you would have joined us.
I'm all about, I know. And I'm all about trying to do a Brazilian steakhouse.
Dude, yeah, that's actually what we were going to do, but they all closed down up there.
Oh, for real?
Yeah, there's an Argentinian restaurant that I think we considered at one point, but honestly, the pizza and beer and the wings and the deep fried green beans were delicious. So, you ever had a deep fried green bean?
I can't say that I have. No.
Life changing,
Yeah.
yes, life changing. But that I believe is all that I've been up to. What about you?
So for me, and I'll save two of the things for you and I both to discuss. So Travis, your plant looks a bit pixelated. Yeah, my virtual background. I assume that's what they're referring to.
That's a
Uh,
comment from Trash by Games.
oh yeah, hello. I think that's Terry's sister.
Okay,
Is sister-in-law. Sorry, yeah, yeah.
nice.
But anyways, so for me, I have played a little bit more of Tears of the Kingdom, but not nearly as much as you. I actually finished a show called Big Door Prize, which is it's an Apple TV Plus show. I don't know if you've started it yet, Justin, or not. But what's cool about Big Door Prize is it's kind of got this. You would like it because it's like throughout the whole show, there's like this mystery of like how this machine like showed up and how it knows what your life's potential is, and people start like buying into it and stuff. It's a really interesting show. The season finale just happened. It was really good. I won't say anything for spoiling it. But also started Jack Ryan season 3. And then also, I had played a snippet of it like about a month or two ago, but recently just dove into Hi Fi Rush, which is kind of like it. I think I mentioned it last week, but it's from Bethesda Studios, one of the studios that they own, the same studio that did The Evil Within, and it's honestly, it might be top one or two game of the year for me so far. It's super
What?
polished. Yeah, it's really good, man.
You've
Uh,
convinced me to give it a download, man. It's on
yeah, I
PC,
mean,
right?
yeah, it's actually on Game Pass.
Okay.
It was a shadow drop too. Like nobody really knew it was coming. It was like, bam, here it is. But it's like a rhythm based fighting game, like a hack and slash, but super fleshed out. Lots of different combos, lots of special moves, super unique gameplay. Like as you're going through the levels, the environment is reacting based on what the music is that's playing on the stage. So you'll see like things moving in the same rhythm of what the music is as you're going through, whether it's like plants or pictures on the wall, maybe sway into everything is in sync with the music. It's just super interesting. But how they balance it, like if you're not really good at rhythm games, they don't punish you for doing so. You know what I mean? So one of the cool things is just like it's honestly just super well thought out, super over the top action. The voice acting is great. The cast of the game is great. But I will probably beat that by the time we stream next week. I think I only have like one or two more bosses left, and I'll be done with it. And then after that, I'm going to go back to Tears of the Kingdom. But yeah, so. But other than that, go ahead.
Oh, we do have a comment here. I don't know if it's Trash by Games or Trash B Games. So if you want to put the
It's
phonetic spelling in the
it's
comments,
it's Trash B Games, I think.
Trash B Games. They say, I'm not related to that loser, referring to Terry a few moments ago. You better add that quote in law. Our apologies. I don't even know how to respond to that because I don't want to offend Terry.
Yeah, well,
I was going to be mean, but he's not here to defend himself. So
no, you can't. Yeah, you can't necessarily call him out if he's not here.
I
But
know
yeah,
it's not as fun. It's just bullying at that point.
yeah, it's
Except
a
for
system.
except for Trash B Games, they can do it
Yeah,
because they're the in law.
her name is Taylor, and I guess she that's just her nickname. I guess.
Trash B.
Yeah, I guess
We'll
Trash
need some
Panda. I'm not real
background on
sure.
that.
Yeah,
Some
yeah,
back
for sure.
information.
But other than that, I'm trying to think if I've been up to anything. So I watched Ted Lasso. Obviously, watched the latest episode of Barry last night. So before we get into our topics, we could talk about those. But before we do so, I'm going to go ahead and throw up a spoiler warning.
Yeah, big time.
For our for audio listeners only. You probably want to jump ahead maybe 3-4 minutes. But the banner will go away, obviously, for our video watchers when spoilers are over. But which one do you want to get into first?
Let's do Ted Lasso first.
Okay, all
All
right.
right.
Go ahead and start. You start.
Where are they going with this? Yes, that's so. We don't know yet if it's truly the final season. The cast is signed on for 3 seasons. The cast is kind of implied that it's going to be 3 seasons, but Apple has made no mention whatsoever that this is a 3 season show. And I've noticed, as well as a lot of people in the world, that Ted is becoming a secondary character.
Yeah.
The show, in my opinion, so does the show need to go beyond 3 seasons? I don't know. Could it? Absolutely, without him even. So they've done a good job at building all of these characters up to where it's like, think about like The Office, right? Like you had, Jim, Pam, Dwight, Michael. But then you had these awesome side characters. You had Andy, Aaron, you had Oscar and Phyllis and Angela. You had all these great side characters. They've done that. They've created a great ensemble cast of characters that I care about. So could they continue this story under a new name, even just call it AFC Richmond or something related? Yeah, they absolutely could. Will they and should they? That's a different question.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like the further the season goes on, the more I'm sold on the fact that these characters can stand on their own without Ted. And I think the thing is, we're starting to see Ted's DNA kind of woven throughout the show more so, and into these individual characters of how Ted's influenced them. And you start to see some traits come out that maybe you would have only expected to see from Ted.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And and I also don't know how I feel about what they're doing with Nate's character. I do hate that I'm caring about him again as a character. You know what I mean? Because after what happened in the previous season, I feel like I don't want to like him as a character now. But this last episode made it really hard to not care about him as a character anymore. You know what I mean?
I mean,
Um,
the whole season, I felt like they've, even when he was like a jerk, like in the first episode, I feel like they still added a little bit of sympathy to him. Like he's still I'm going to say this, it's going to sound horribly mean. He's still this tiny man that's insecure.
yeah.
Like he's always been that. So I still I still felt bad for him even when he had everything. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. Yeah, I guess I'm not there with you. I can't really agree in that regard,
Yeah.
but as the seasons progressed, it's made me start to care more and more about him, especially in the last episode where you see him almost kind of like going through and righting his wrongs. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I am kind of curious because we also saw like, because the very beginning of the episode, it's like, oh, Nate's out, right? Like he's out. And then everybody else is like giving Nate shit and just making fun of the fact that, oh, karma's come around, except Ted. Ted is the only one, and you could tell throughout the episode he's like checking his phone, reading news stories, and he clearly is like concerned about Nate, right?
Yeah.
Like, but I also like kind of the direction that that the past few episodes has been taking Roy, right? Like
Yeah.
we're starting to see him kind of stand on his own as a character and actually turn into a leader more so like than I thought we would. And I could really see like him taking Ted's place when he leaves.
Yeah.
I guess my question to you is do we think that Nate is going to come back?
I could see it being a Ted and Beard both departing, and it
Yeah.
being Roy and Nate.
Yeah, you want to know my theory on the biggest PR stunt they could pull if they wanted to?
Go for it.
When this show when the show ends, the book that Trent's been working on releases.
Oh, that'd be cool. They did something similar with Severance with
Yeah.
the book on the Apple Bookstore.
Yeah,
Uh,
but the thing is nobody was actively working on a book. I just think that would
that's
be really
true.
kind of almost breaking the fourth wall, kind of where the book is released that we see him working on in the third season. I think would be really cool.
I think that would be great.
Yeah, but yeah, we got what, 2 episodes left?
I think so, man. I
Yeah,
I I love the show. And I'm just gonna say it. I do think it's a tad overrated, but I still absolutely love the show and I adore the characters. I love the writing. I don't want to see it go away, but I also just don't want them to milk it for the sake of milking it. If you have a good story to tell it.
yeah,
So
yeah. No, I agree. Now let's get into Barry. Once again, spoilers, probably for the next 2 minutes,
Big
but
time.
that episode, man, does Bill Hader know how to write, and also how does he direct the show as
You
well?
direct all of this season. He's directed every episode. Yeah,
Man, just like the opening beat and that whole like, is what he's seeing actual reality and he doesn't even know, and just
yeah.
like, it's just so good. And I honestly didn't expect to see um shoot, Harry Winkler's character.
Henry Winkler, Gene Cousineau.
Yeah, Gene Cousineau. I didn't expect his whole mission to flip that quick when really the real actors came knocking at the door. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? I think that just goes to show that like he's he isn't the person we thought he was changing into be. He came back from this whole like mission and walkabout in life, right? And comes back and he's like, "Oh, like don't make this, and now but hey, you get oh boy to come out of retirement to play him, then you know
that was so funny. That whole that.
I
So
had a feeling that was all going to be pieced together.
yeah,
Like, yeah,
I I I didn't criticize season 3 for not being funny because I thought it was great. I thought the serious tone, seeing a show go from a dark comedy to a straight up drama like it did in season 3, I enjoyed that. This season's definitely brought the humor back. Oh my gosh. Are you NoHo Hank right now?
yeah. I'm no Hank, bro.
50-50 with Cristobal. Um, this season definitely has brought back the comedy, which is, oh my gosh, I can't take you serious.
All right, sorry. Go
Uh,
ahead.
it's brought back the comedy, which has been welcome. The whole part where NoHo Hank's opening up the heads, the boxes, and he's like, "Why am I
He
still
just
opening
keeps
these?"
opening
And
them.
then he's like, "Still a fox." Like it was so funny. The whole like the last several episodes have been darkly hilarious.
Yes.
And I'm really enjoying the show. I'm really savoring it because this is a show from the moment it started, wasted no time. It's been a neat 30 minutes. If anyone else tried to make this show, I think they'd make it an hour. Do I want more? Yes, but there's just been no wasting time. There's no fluff. Everything
Yeah.
has a purpose, and it just keeps moving. It moves at such a pace that like you just don't really see it. The pacing. This is going to be a weird comparison. The pacing reminds me of Infinity War.
Yeah.
That movie did not feel like 3 hours, and this show doesn't feel like it should be ending next week.
Yeah.
So
And that's the thing. It's like I know those shows are typically like only 30 minutes, and like I'm in it and I'm constantly checking to see how much time is left in the episode, because I know when we get to the last 5 minutes or last 3 minutes, that's when stuff's going to go down.
yeah,
Tip, typically. But I think this show, and this might be a hot take, but I think this show is probably one of the best shows that is a drama that knows when comedy works.
hmm
Like, I don't think there's ever been a part where comedy has been placed into it, and I'm just like, that's just a bad place for that. You know what I mean? It's just always done in a way where I find myself laughing, even though what I just saw, like 2 seconds before, I was in shock and awe. You know what I mean?
yeah.
And it just cracks me up on that this last episode where they're like sitting on the couch, and like the Raven is telling his new wife and daughter like what they just witnessed, and just like, and then everybody is trying to come up with ideas to help that not be an issue going forward. And then they're like,
Yeah,
oh, just put on the Fast and Furious movies or take them out to dinner. I'm just like, this is just, and and the thing is right when you think a bit is like, oh, it's just going to be here and gone, like they sit in it. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like
yeah.
they just sit in it, and I like that. I like that a lot. But I let's talk about predictions real quick. So what do you so what do you think is going to happen on the finale? I I almost wonder if everybody's going to die and the only person that's going to be alive is his son.
I kind of have a feeling that everyone's going to die as well, with the exception of one character, and that character being Fuchs and his son, of course. Do you remember
Because
in
he's
the
like
first
a
episode?
cockroach.
What's that?
Because he's like a cockroach and he can't die.
He is, but if you recall in the first episode, first or second episode, when Barry is in prison and he sees himself as a young boy in the desert, isolated, and Fuchs comes up to him and like kind of grooms him right there.
Yeah.
I wonder if maybe that wasn't Barry he was talking to. Maybe that was John.
Do you think maybe it will start the cycle all over again,
I kind of
essentially?
think it could. and
And it
he'll
could
like
be talking about like the cycle of violence, essentially.
kinda, and he'll be because Barry has constantly tried to get out of this life, right? And something always happens where it just doesn't work out for him. He's tried for 3.5, 4 seasons now to get away from this life, and he can't. And I think that's even going to bleed down to his son John. And I think that we could see, and this would be like the most tragic ending to, in my opinion, is John living but having Fuchs as a father figure, um, because he's going to end up just like Barry.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's true. And it would kind of remind me of almost like a Dexter esque type ending. You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
but good.
But good. Yeah.
Speaking of which,
And
Ray Stevenson died today.
yeah, I saw that.
Yeah,
I saw
sad.
that. It's
He was a Dexter
unfortunate.
villain one season.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, but yeah, and plus I think that gives them the ability to leave it open if they wanted to do a spinoff with maybe a time jump forward or something like that, where
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
have Bill Hader
Uh,
play John.
I wish, bro. I wish. But no, and I think the thing is too is like you already see like the things that's happening in that show starting to affect John. Like he's standing in the front yard and he's like, "What is happening?" Like you can
Yeah,
tell he is not well because he is. I mean, he's literally been sheltered his entire life, and now all these things are starting to unfold at a rapid pace in front of him. You know what I mean? I
oh
just
yeah.
like at what point does he reach the breaking point? And I think you're right. I think we are though. We're getting the Barry that we had at the end of the season where he went in and completely took everybody out in that temple. Well,
Season 2, the monastery.
yeah, the
Monastery
monastery.
Barry.
Yeah, I think that's what we're about to see.
Yeah.
I think he's going to be on a one man mission, but it's going to be a suicide mission.
I think so. And I think we're going to lose Hank. I mean, I could see Sally surviving. Um, maybe not. I mean, a lot of the things too also kind of parallel Macbeth. From the
Yeah,
beginning, they've paralleled Macbeth, and I want to say I should know this, but I want to say Lady Macbeth dies in Macbeth, um, and she's kind of like experiencing the guilt of it. I don't know if you're familiar with the play, but from taking a life, even though her taking a life was kind of justified, Sally's was,
yeah.
but they've kind of mirrored Macbeth since the beginning, so I could see. I mean, it's going to be a tragic ending. I don't think on Monday when we wake up and get ready for work, we're going to be real happy. I
No,
think
I
it's
don't
going to be a
either.
real solemn day.
Yeah, I almost wonder too, and it's the last thing I'll say, and then we can move forward. Is like if he's going to use his family, like NoHo Hank is going to basically use his family to get him to kill Fuchs, but it's going to go poorly in all aspects. I
Yeah.
think we're going to start to see all these separate stories that have been happening all collide at once. I think is what's going to happen. But I tell you, I want. I can't remember his name, but the guy that captured Barry at the end of the last episode.
Detective Jim Moss.
Yeah, I want him taken out for sure.
Why? He's like the
Oh,
only good guy on this show.
I don't
Him
know,
and
man.
him and the son,
I
Gene
mean,
Busey, the son.
I guess, but do you think the authorities actually know that he had Barry in his garage? You think
Hmm.
he gave him that information?
No, probably not.
All right, then. I'm not.
I do think it was pretty sloppy for him to leave him out like that, like with the knife and everything. But
Oh yeah, dude. Yeah, yeah. And then he passes out. It's such a Barry thing too. He cuts himself and passes out in the kitchen.
yeah,
My one of my favorite episodes of the entire series is when he has that knockdown, drag out fight with that guy that is like a black belt, and they're just like tearing up the entire house. I was like, this is like one of the best things, man. I
yeah.
tell you.
Got a
All
comment
right.
here from Kevin saying Justin, to which I say, Kevin. Hey Kevin, how you doing? I wish I
What's
had
up,
the
Kevin?
Kevin, the from Home Alone. No, Kevin's a
Yeah,
guy I
yeah,
used to work with. He's a good guy, a good friend of mine.
yeah, yeah. Absolutely. Thank you for
You know,
stopping
do you know
by.
Kevin?
Yeah, King's Daughters, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. Um,
KDMC.
KDMC. All right. Well, we're done with spoilers. So let's go ahead
Oh
and
yeah.
get into we're gonna get into more impressions on Legends of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. If you don't want spoilers, you probably also want to stay out of this one.
Skip one.
I'm not gonna actually talk. I'm gonna let Justin do the first part of this, and then I'm gonna take the latter half and lead into our next topic. So
You jumped
over to you.
over Lego Drive 2K. real
Oh,
quick. I want to touch on that
yeah,
real
yeah,
quick. So
yeah, yeah.
last
I'm just
week,
gonna switch back to what you've been up to. Go ahead.
well, this is under notable news. If you see our notes, it's broken down. It's really nice and organized. Travis does a good job with these. He does do a great job. You do. What are you shaking your head no for?
All right, go ahead.
Last week, Lego and 2K released Lego Drive 2K, and Tangy Travis and Juicy Justin. I am both intrigued and scared, but I love it. That was a comment, by the way. I was bad. I should have said that's a comment. You used to do that. Anyway, Lego Drive 2K came out, and it is a ton of fun. I do believe the price tag is $70. Don't quote me on that. We received a copy from 2K.
Thank you, 2K.
Thank you, 2K. It's the best. And I've been playing it. I'm still working on my review, but this game is a ton of fun. It is a combination of Lego games, Forza Horizon games, Mario Kart, and I'm going to say it, Mod Nation Racers. Remember that game, Travis?
Oh man, yeah. I was gonna actually ask you about that because I watched that little snippet that you were playing,
Mm-hmm.
and I definitely got those vibes. Now, you did say Mario Kart. Does that mean that you can actually get weapons in the game?
You can. It's 100%. So when you're out in the world, right, it's just like Forza Horizon. You can go to the map. Now, there's different regions, and there is a loading screen between regions. That's fine. But then when you go to like a race checkpoint like you would in Forza Horizon, it turns strictly into like a kart track racer, right? And there's power-ups and there's different things you can pick up, and they're really neat and they look great visually. Like the rockets that explode look great. I mean, this is gonna sound crazy. This game looks and feels like a next-gen game. I'm not even joking. Like, you're laughing, but I'm not
Okay.
joking. They did a
I'm,
really good job with it. Like, I went in with like little to no expectations, and my expectations have been met and probably exceeded. Um,
okay.
Now, I mentioned Mod Nation Racers as well. If you don't remember that game, it's from like the 2000s on the PS3, I think. And it was a kart racer where you could basically customize your car and racer to look or resemble anything. And people would often create a lot of pop culture related things, right?
Okay.
This one, you can do that, not your racer so much, but your car. And but you're obviously restricted to Lego bricks. And like I've been making the Batmobile. I'm gonna start working on some Bond cars. You can make whatever you want as long as you can make it happen with Legos. Now, I would say if you were really interested, you could probably find a Lego instruction manual for a car Lego set and probably recreate that car in the game.
Okay.
So
Very
that's something
cool.
to consider. Yeah.
And you may, I'll be honest, I was looking at something for a second that
I know.
is show related, but the only thing that I was going to ask you, and you may have already touched on it, if you did, I apologize. So one of the great things I like about Forza Horizon is the store that you can go and download like custom paint schemes and things like that. In this game, can you download people's created cars?
I think you can, but don't quote me on that. I know that
Okay.
there's a garage. I need to dive in more into some of these features. And like I said, my review's still in progress. I'm not done yet, but I'm not entirely sure. I know the Lego games are somewhat restrictive when it comes to online functionality, so I don't want to give a yes
Okay.
or no at the moment.
Yeah, yeah. And that's one thing that they've not really done a lot of because they want kids to stay off the internet because there's creeps out there.
There are.
But I plan on playing it. Oh, you pointing at me, bro?
No.
Thanks.
At one point, I pointed my mic by accident because I don't know direction.
Well, yeah, I definitely plan on playing it. I need to download it. I'll probably do that tonight. I've just really been trying to get through one of these habits that I've been trying to break that I've had for the past several years in gaming. And now that we're like back into podcasting and I'm trying to be a more responsible gamer. So I'm trying to like finish one game before moving to the other because what happens is I play all these games at once and guess what? None of them I finish because I spread myself too thin. So now I'm just, you know, and I've beat since the beginning of January. I've actually beat 5 or 6 games, which is more than like I did all last year. So I'm doing better. But I definitely will download that. I also feel like that's a good just game if you can jump in for a few minutes and play and then jump out. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
But yeah. Any more notable news before we move on?
No.
Okay. All right. Well, so like I said, last week we talked about our our impressions for Tears of the Kingdom. However, Justin wasn't here to be a part of that conversation, so we want him to obviously come and tell us what he thinks, because him and I actually have varying opinions.
We do.
But to be fair, he's also played a lot more than I have, so that may change come next week. However, what are some of your impressions of the game so far?
Okay. I want to preface this by referencing my top 5 list from last week, where Ocarina of Time is my number 1 game, right? Wind Waker is my number 2. I'm really a fan of the traditional style Legend of Zelda game, where it's not necessarily linear, but it's open world, but there's like an order of operations of how you should do things. When Breath of the Wild came out, I was very underwhelmed. And if you noticed last week, that game was not on my top 5 Zelda game list. That's intentional. I don't think it's a top 5 Zelda game. So Tears of the Kingdom, I was actually pretty lukewarm on when I found out it was going to be a direct sequel to Breath of the Wild. I knew I was going to get it. It's my favorite game series of all time. Ocarina of Time is my favorite game of all time. So I knew I was going to get this game, but I wasn't super jazzed about it being essentially a Breath of the Wild clone. Then they showed off that gameplay trailer a month or so ago with Fuse and Ascend and all these new features. And, my ears perked up a little bit, and I picked up the game, and I'm not kidding when I say I have not put it down. I'm going to have a hot take right here. I'm not done with the game. I've only completed one temple and probably hours and hours. I probably have 20 hours in this game so far. What are you doing?
My bad. I was trying to make you the bigger picture, and I completely failed.
That's all right. That's all right. I think it's whoever's on the left.
Okay.
But this is a hot take coming in. Spicy hot take. Ready? I think that this game might not only be the best Legend of Zelda game, it might be the best game ever made. I mean that. This game not only has incredible gameplay, an incredible story, a world that is so deep, literally, and just abilities. I mean, you can do anything. You can almost do anything imaginable in this game, right? It blows my mind that we have a game with so much freedom that has a narrative. Yeah, I can go play Minecraft and create stuff or whatever, but there's a rich story with this one. I am in love with this game. That's all I'm gonna say. I think it's perfect. I think it absolutely has earned every positive review it has been given. I think it has set the bar for games going forward.
Wow.
Yeah, okay. I have very high praise for this game. And this is coming from someone who didn't. I mean, I fully understand and recognize that Breath of the Wild is a masterpiece. And it is a great game, probably a near perfect one. It just wasn't for me. It broke too far from the Legend of Zelda formula. And while this game follows very closely to Breath of the Wild, you can see it pulling back some closer to the classic Zelda games. So it's like a very perfect blend of both. And why are you shaking your head now?
Because I feel like it literally is the exact opposite of everything you just said.
It's not.
When you said going back to its original formula, but yet they added things in here that's never been in a Zelda game before,
I said
and it almost breaks the game.
Oh, nothing breaks the game. It wouldn't be there. Nothing in this game is broken. If you want, because in the last game, you could go fight Ganon right away. You could just go walk straight into the castle and fight Ganon.
Yeah, well, I don't know about that.
Yeah, you only had 3 hearts, but you could do it.
Well, I thought people had to glitch. People had to glitch the game to get there, though.
No, I think they just ran in. I don't think that there was a glitch. You can walk right into Hyrule Castle in the first one once you got off the Great Plateau.
Well, all I know is, and to be fair, I haven't even done my first temple yet. I've done 4 shrines, right? So I haven't done my first temple yet. So I don't really have a whole lot of value to add to this conversation, and I will be updating my impressions as I get to play more of the game.
Hold up, you've done what now? Your first shrine?
No. I've done 4 shrines. I haven't done my first temple yet.
Have you left the Sky Island yet?
Yeah, I just landed there, and I went to the first place once you land.
Hang on, I'm gonna mute your mic. He's lost his ability to speak. No, I'm just kidding. I'm sorry.
Wow.
Wow, that was mean.
But no, I don't know. It just, The one feature that I question in the game is merging items with your weapons. I think that is ridiculous. It works well for some of them.
Yeah.
Like I understand like putting a like a flaming thing on a like an arrow or like but attaching a boulder to the end of a sword and it literally looks like a sword with a small boulder on the end is
There's a
ridiculous.
huge reason for that. Have you not used it yet?
Yeah, you can swing and bust open walls you wouldn't normally be able
Yeah,
to
it's a
get to.
sledgehammer.
In an older game, I would have just threw a bomb at it, and that's
You
how I
can do
would get
that.
past it. I mean, I
You can
know I
set up a bomb.
can, and I think that's the thing I need to get out of my mindset is if I really want to just play it like the games that I'm used to, right? Then I
Yeah.
can do that.
Yeah.
But it's just people are building bridges that are so long, they're getting the areas they shouldn't be in yet.
I did that just yesterday.
And it's now I will say
Didn't feel like
though, like
climbing.
because you said and I see and I never looked into anything about the game when it came out, so I don't really know what exists, so I don't know what I don't know, essentially, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
um so when you told me the other day that you got a joystick,
Mhm.
I was like, what are you talking about? And then
The
you're like,
controls, yeah.
it allows you to control vehicles. Now that made my ears perk up because that was my biggest complaint is like I made this thing that looked like a box truck. I'm like, well, all I can do is roll it down a hill. Like, what am I gonna
Yeah.
do?
Yeah.
So you're
So
saying you actually will? Yes, but can you get like an engine where you go like you throttle, or you just hit the fans and then you can steer yourself?
you basically hit the fans or the rockets if you add rockets to it.
Oh, there's
It's
rockets.
yeah, you can add rockets to propel yourself. So I actually did one the other day. You know, there's like little floating blocks that you can like manipulate to kind of climb up higher.
Yeah.
I was on a sky island, and there was another sky island really far away, and I couldn't get to it. But there was one of those floating things and a few rockets and controls, and I strapped every rocket I could find to that thing, added the controls to it, slapped him, and then took off flying. And I like steered it over to it. Now you only have so much battery. There's not necessarily a brake or anything like that from what I can tell. If there is, I haven't been doing that.
Wouldn't you just hit the fans or whatever it is to
Yeah, you
stop them?
could, but you have to like disengage from the controls and hit
Yeah,
him.
yeah.
So, unfortunately, I crashed into the sky island I was going to anyway, so it stopped for me. But um,
So
just
you
that
flew
kind of,
from the ground up is what you flew to?
I was already on an island, so I was going straight. Now I
Ah,
could add the rockets like that to propel up. I actually did do that. Um, so this is actually funny. I did one where I had to grab. You haven't done this yet, but there's a shrine where there's like a on a sky island where there's like a giant green crystal on a different one, and you have to go get it and bring it back. And typically that involves you jumping from the first island down, so there's no way up. This one had a floating thing. I put the rockets on, shot straight up. Then I took the rockets off, put them to the side, went forward, and got there. And
I
that,
did read something that was kind of cool that I want to try. And you may have already did this, or you may have not have thought of it. Because that is the one thing I will say it's cool about this game is people are like finding things like just by trying, and then they're
yeah,
like, oh. And somebody said when you realize that you can use the reverse feature from falling debris from the sky and and ride it up using the reverse feature, I'm like, that's clever.
yeah. I got into Hyrule Castle doing that.
Oh, did you?
Got my armor. There's a armor set in there. Your old Breath of the Wild armor is in there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool.
Spoiler alert. Sorry.
Wow. Yeah, I don't have to play it now.
My bad. Yeah.
But well, what else you got on this game?
I think it. I mean, I've done one temple, the Wind Temple. The fight for the Wind Temple was awesome. I will say, so okay. I'm gonna say one more thing. The wind. Once you actually get to the Wind Temple, I felt it was a little easy. Okay. Getting to the Wind Temple though was a challenge in and of itself. It took me an hour to get to it
Okay.
because you're doing this whole
Like
thing
platforming up.
basically up into the clouds from the ground, essentially. So it takes a long time, and there's enemies. And at one point, I got hit and knocked off and died, and had to start over. There
Oh,
are a couple of shrines up there, so I do. This is a game where I've really started to like. Anytime I feel like I got somewhere that's a milestone, I save it. I'm like, no, not getting knocked off of the
that
sky island
is
here.
that is one nice thing is you can save at any point in time, which I
Yes,
think is pretty cool. That's
yeah.
something that they've always been good about.
I did this one thing the other day where, no spoilers, but there was people talking about a voice that they could hear, and I went through the tunnel, and I saw the marker for the quest, right? But on the other
Yeah.
side, I saw a block of boulders. So I decided, forget the quest. I took the boulders out and kept going. It led me down this 2-hour trail of me just exploring and getting gear and
Underground.
yes, and fighting monsters and bosses. There's a boss down there. And I left with all this armor and like weapons and arrows, which I was very arrow poor at the time. Um, and bomb flowers. I didn't have any of those. I'm now fully stocked. But I was like 2 hours of me just exploring. I started this like at 11 o'clock. I usually go to bed at 11. I didn't go to bed till after 1 because I was like, I
Yeah.
can't stop. I'm fully invested in this. And it turns out the quest marker, it was just all to do was talk, interact with
Yeah.
that thing, and it was done.
I do. I do have to ask though. Have you got to play it handheld yet? I was curious
Yeah.
if you tried out those new controllers.
Yeah, I love them. Solid recommendation, by the way.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Now, did you go with the compact or the regular? No, you did the regular, didn't you?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
got the pro right there.
Yeah, the Split Pad Pro. Yeah. Okay, good.
Oh,
I'm glad
yeah.
you like them. I'll tell you one thing I didn't think that I would realize that I would like about that controller in Breath of the Wild are the programmable buttons on the back. Because being able to have like one like sprint and then the other one do something else like is really nice feature. So, but anyways, all right. Anything else to add before we move on?
I just love this game. It's just
All right.
so good.
So, would you say out of the games you played this year, this is obviously number one so far, right?
It's yeah, like I said, it might be number 1 of all time.
Okay.
We'll see. I want to beat it first. Ocarina of Time was like my first like game that like I played in my youth that like felt like a grown-up game and like I beat on my own, you know. So
yeah.
that game is special, nostalgic wise, I guess. But this one, man, this one's good. But you did do prayer hands or something?
Yeah, it's like thank you. The Ocarina of Time. Yeah. I can't believe it wasn't Wind Waker for you. What a bastard.
I love Wind Waker, but Ocarina is my first, man.
Yeah. Well, you always tend to love your first the most, right? I was really hoping you'd spit that water everywhere.
I was gonna go to a mom joke, but I've matured since I started playing Tears of the Kingdom. So
well, speaking of mom, this is a great place to pivot. Does size matter? Got your ass.
You did.
So I wanted to refer to. So what I wanted to talk about is one of the struggles that I have with Breath of the Wild, but I managed to power through. But I have it even worse with this game, and I've had this problem with other games in the past, like the newer Assassin's Creed games are
That's
so
the
fast.
one that comes to mind, Valhalla.
Yeah. So like, does size matter? And what that means is like, is it possible for games to be too big? Is it possible for games to be too small? Is it possible for maybe not even the environment to be too big, but there's just too much content packed in right out of the gate that you just get like disoriented by everything that the game's throwing at you, right? So I do want to refer to a poll that I put up on Facebook and Instagram. So I put up, is it possible for a video game to be too large? 83% of people voted yes. And then there was 17% of people that said it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Not even no, but it just straight up doesn't matter.
I think I clicked that one.
Oh, of course, that would have been you. Okay. But yeah, so I thought that was interesting. So, you know, I wrote an article that I posted on our website for those of you that didn't know we have a website. Yeah, if you go to nerdswithmics.com, you can check it there. I just wrote an article on it. Go ahead. Yeah.
Justin says mom jokes will never go out of style, and I tend to agree with him.
Yep, I absolutely wholeheartedly agree. But so it begs the question, does size matter? So I wanted to get into this conversation with Justin, and really, when I think about some of the largest maps, right? So Final Fantasy 15 comes to mind. Remember Test Drive Unlimited 2? That game was huge as well. It was like 600 miles of actual, it took 2 hours to drive around the whole island. Is crazy. Ghost Recon, the newest like Wildlands, right? That game is massive. The Assassin's Creed games are where I struggle with it the most. But really, I just wanted to like center really around like 5 areas. And we don't want to spend a ton of time on each of these areas, but like, so map size, right? So for instance, with Tears of the Kingdom, you obviously start off in the sky, kind of like Skyward Sword. And I thought, hey, this is cool. This is different. This is where the game's going to take place. Like, I'm cool with that. Like, the challenge is going to be getting from island to island in the sky. And then I finished 3 shrines, and then I skydived to Hyrule, and now I just have all of Breath of the Wild's map.
And you
And I
have all
thought,
the other islands.
yeah, and all the other islands. And then Justin informs me, oh wait, there's also underground as well.
And it's the full size of the map.
I'm like, what is happening? Like,
Yeah.
why?
Why not?
Um, and I get it. I think we went through a period, right, where it felt like when we got games that they weren't finished, and it was all about DLC coming out to really make us feel like we purchased a full game, right? And now I feel like I have the exact opposite problem. I feel like with these games, some of the games, not all games, there is so much content packed into the game, whether it's map size. When I think about Elden Ring, right? Like Elden Ring, huge map, but a lot of it was just empty, right? Um, so I think sometimes a map can be large, but it also depends on how they utilize that space, right? Like if it's just a bunch of empty space and just a bunch of filler, right? Like I think like Grand Theft Auto, for instance, Grand Theft Auto 5, when it came out, it was a tech marvel, right?
Yep.
Like how did they do that, right? But then when you break it down, a large percentage of it is just wildlife that you'll spend some time in, but not really at all. When in all actuality, they could have theoretically made it a little bit smaller, but put more detail either into the buildings or have more buildings that you could actually go in and explore and spend time inside of those buildings, right? So I think sometimes like going for size of the map as opposed to where else can they put those resources, I think sometimes I think that could be something it could be better utilized. What's your thoughts just on map size? Are you ever affected by how large a map is? I know that you had said kind of similar things about like the Assassin's Creed games, but what are your thoughts on map size?
It honestly depends on the game. So for me personally, GTA 5 doesn't bother me. I think it's one of the better maps out there. And for GTA 5, a lot of like the desert is, I think that's more or less the immersion of it to say that there's the city and there's like the country. Um, but also traversing GTA 5 is really, really easy. Um, a game like Assassin's Creed Valhalla, that's a huge map. But also, my problem with Valhalla is it's not just that the map is big and there's so much to do, but it's the freaking markers on the map. Like you pull up
Yeah,
the map and there's like a billion things, and I don't know what does what, where to go for this or whatever. And it becomes overwhelming. And I'm like, all right, I quit. Like
yeah,
this is just too much. And then you have a game like Legend of Zelda. This is probably one of the few gripes I will have is that map is huge. There's a lot to do, but it's not super easy to traverse. There's hills and you got to climb up them, which plays in with your stamina bar. There's weather effects. Am I too cold? Am I going to freeze to death? Am I going to burn up? Am I going to, burn to death? So like the Zelda game is actually kind of hard to traverse after a while, unless you're just like
yeah,
prepared for everything. Um, I personally map size itself doesn't turn me off, but more or less like what Valhalla did, where I open up the map and there's just so many things, and I'm like, how do I even start? That's my thing.
yeah. Yeah, and I also think how they utilize the map, not necessarily like the environment, but like, is it a game that has fast travel? Once you unlock certain things like along the way, or certain like maybe towns or checkpoints, like can you fast travel? Because is there fast traveling in Tears of the Kingdom at all?
Every single shrine you go to.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you can. I just haven't unlocked that yet. I
That's
forgot that was
why.
in.
That's why. Even if you don't plan on doing the shrine, you want to check in.
Yeah,
As
yeah,
long
yeah,
as you
for
do the
sure.
little hand thingy, you're good.
Your Gucci Mane.
Yeah, you don't have to finish it for it to be fast travel.
Yeah, and I also think with the map size thing too, it's like I kind of like what they used to do back in the day with the older Assassin's Creed games, where like you were in a city and you had to climb to the high points to reveal more of the map. So you were getting it in smaller chunks as opposed to, bam, here it all is. You're this
Yeah.
tiny dot. But I do also think for me, and it also may just be the way my brain works, is when they load up the screen with a ton of icons, like you said, it's hard for me to focus on what it is I want to do.
Yeah.
Right. Like I think as long as like the game does a good enough job of here's where you go if you want to mainline the story, like here's the route you take, but here's these things sprinkled throughout the way. But sometimes it just some games do it in a way where it just doesn't seem clear what it is you're supposed to do at the time. And is this mission or quest that I'm on part of the main storyline? Is it not? You know what I mean? So it just really depends. Now, as far as in-game content, this game, and I think the thing is too, with like these Legends of Zelda games, right? I think they know that they are only making these games every 5 to 7 years, so they just try to pack as much content into these games as possible, which I think is fine. But also, it makes me wonder, like, would it be better if they like released it over time? Not necessarily the main story per se, like all that should be there, but like, should it be one of those things where maybe 2 years they have a large DLC that comes out? Because I think about like The Witcher, right? The Witcher 3.
Yeah.
The main game had a ton of content, but then they came out with DLC that was bigger than the original game, like The Witcher 3, right? Like I think about things like that, like the way that the roadmap is for game content. There's some games that just forego that formula and they're just like, here it all is, right? So I think it also depends on how they're planning on distributing that content, or if they're just giving it to you right out of the gate. So what do you think on that?
Um, so for Zelda, I mean, historically they just haven't really presented any story DLC. They did do some DLC for Breath of the Wild that got you a like a motorcycle, I think.
Yeah,
A few other things, but story wise, they don't really do that. I mean, that doesn't mean they can't. For Tears of the Kingdom, I mean, I just can't really see them bucking that trend. I think they're gonna stick with what they've been doing. Um, but I'm okay with it because it gives me something to chew on for, I mean, half a decade if I want to, you know.
yeah,
I can rush through it. I can take my time. At the moment, I'm going pretty quick. For me, for my standards. Um, but I'm not really in any rush to finish.
yeah. That's what she said. But but anyways, so what I will say is, if a game does a good enough job, like grabbing into story, like right out of the gate, like regardless of how big the environment and how much content's in it, like because I was thinking about Jedi Survivor, right? Like there's a lot of content in that game, I feel like, right? Especially with the hub planet, and
Yeah,
as you leave and come back, there's more people like coming into town, and a lot of those individuals have side quests.
yeah,
But if the story is good enough for me to just be like, I'm just gonna run through this, like, because what I did with Jedi Survivor is like, I'm just gonna mainline this, and then if I want to come back and do the extra content, I will. But like the story was so good, I just wanted to keep seeing what happens. And Tears of the Kingdom is okay so far. I'm gonna play until I get to the first temple at least. But you know, we'll see. I know I'm the 1%er, I'm sure, and I'm sure if I play more of it, I'll like it. I just got mixed feelings about it.
keep playing, man. Tonight, right now.
So have you been? I mean, without spoilers, are you happy with the story thus far, based on where you are?
100%.
Okay, okay,
It's up there.
all right. Well, but yeah, I think the story plays a big part. Like with me, like especially with like Assassin's Creed Valhalla, I just I couldn't get into the story. I just didn't.
The story for me was fine. It was just the overwhelming amount of crap that they packed into it. Like, I don't need to. There doesn't need to be a billion things. I was actually looking on howlongtobeat.com. So for Tears of the Kingdom, if you want to beat just the main story, it's 52 hours. If you want to do the main story and side quests, it's 75 and a half hours. If you want to be a completionist and do everything, 192 hours.
Wow.
If you're talking about Assassin's Creed Valhalla, to complete just the main story, it's 60 and a half hours. It's longer than Tears of the Kingdom. The main quest plus side quest, it's 95 and a half. That's longer than Tears of the Kingdom. But to be a completionist, it's 141.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you have all those Korok seeds in Zelda. Like, that factors that in too. There's like
Yeah.
900 of those. So I don't think I'm exaggerating. I think there's really
Yeah.
900. But I mean, you look at games too. Let's see here. Persona 5.
Yeah.
That's a beast of a game. That's 97 and a half hours just for the main story.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of those
173 for
JRPGs
completionist.
are that way, I feel like.
Yeah. And Persona
But
5's
then
awesome.
again, yeah. That's one thing I'm going to challenge myself to get into, is more JRPGs this year.
Persona 5 is a good one to start with if you haven't.
Yeah. Final Fantasy 16 comes out soon, right?
Yeah, next month, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. And I didn't realize because I didn't really play 15, but evidently 15 has one of the bigger maps that's ever been made in a game as well.
Yeah.
Which is, I guess, one of the first times doing that. Because I think about big maps, and I also think about, like, for me, I don't ever complain about them when it comes with to MMOs for some reason. But when it comes to non-MMO games that have really large maps and a lot of content, that's where I have the issue for some reason. I don't know why. I think it's because I don't have the time like I used to sit down and play games. So I feel like sometimes like it's just me whining because I know it's going to take a lot to beat and I just don't have the bandwidth for it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I just want those smaller like experiences I can have in smaller chunks. So also, I wanted to talk about character progression. So, in regards of like your talent trees, as far as like the story, if it's one of those type of things where every decision you make in the game, affects the outcome of the game. I think that plays a big role in it for me is like, what does that character progression look like? I like the ability to fully flesh out my character. I feel like if I have a lot of content, but I'm in a box as far as what my character is or what my character can do, that's where I have the problem. Because I'm like, if you have this massive environment and all this game content, but I really can't do anything with my character in a way that's like that matters, I think it takes away from that experience for me as well. What about you?
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I like the Mass Effect games so much, is because like decisions you make from game one feel like they have an impact all the way through the series. I mean, if you haven't if you're not haven't played Mass Effect yet, I'm sorry, I'm going to spoil it. In the first game, you make a decision where like you are forced to choose between one or two of your teammates to stay behind and die. And if you play it right and keep your game saves, that carries on through all three games. That impact. So, not to mention the one you save is still around. So, um, I like games like that, like the Telltale Walking Dead games, how they have character choices that matter. The David Cage Quantum Dreams. I don't know, like Heavy Rain,
Yeah,
Beyond Two Souls, or something like that. Those have decisions that matter. I love stuff like that. So yeah, that's
yeah.
very important for games like GTA and Valhalla and Tears of the Kingdom. It doesn't really matter as much. You're not really given choices. Um, but I mean, character progression in general, I feel like, well, Red Dead's a good one. I feel like you really do kind of progress your character in that one quite a bit.
Yeah. Yeah, and I know a lot of there's some JRPGs that play like that. I know my buddy Christian's been playing this series called I think it's Trails. Yeah, and they're like truncated experiences, so they'll like be 3 games that make up like a series, and then they'll have another one. It's like a set of series of games, but like as you complete one and you go into the other, like people like know what you did from the last game and you interact with people that you interacted with in the previous games, and it just continues it like kind of like Mass Effect does. Which, and I think when they do that and they take the time to really integrate that, where it feels like you're spending a lot of time with these characters over a certain amount of games, I think it really, like when you start caring about characters like in a game, and if
Yeah.
something happens and they're gone, I think that's how you know it's a good series, is based on like if you're emotionally connected to that character. You know what I mean? um, so I think that's something that's really cool, is just character progression when it's done right. I think can be really cool, and it makes you feel like you're playing something that's giving you a different experience, and where you get some like just in just an everyday game.
Yeah.
um, so, and I also think too, and I kind of mentioned it earlier, and the last thing I wanted to talk about is kind of like, do they do a good enough job of like giving you guidance and direction of what it is you're supposed to do, right? Like, because I know, like, if somebody like was not really a Zelda fan before, right, and they've never really played a Zelda game, and they drop into Tears of the Kingdom, it's not super obvious what to do.
No, it's not. I think that they would have probably a rough time, honestly, because there's not a whole lot of hand holding in that. I mean, there's quest markers, but like it kind of, once you get off the sky island, this first sky island, it kind of just says, "Here, kid, do whatever you want." I mean, it's not
Yeah,
really forcing you to go any one direction.
yeah, yeah. Um, and I think the Souls games are very similar to that. Like if you try to play, I think Elden Ring was probably the most accessible game.
Yeah.
Like if you've not played anything in that series, but I think if you went into like one of the Souls games or Bloodborne, not really knowing anything about that play style or that game style, like you're gonna have a bad time. You know what I mean? If
Oh
you've
yeah.
not played anything like that. So I think it really comes down to, does the game do a good enough job of not only catering to people that's fans of the series and love the series, but also somebody that's coming into the series for the first time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then also I think about like, do you think that they should, like, in your opinion, like for somebody that's say new to the Zelda franchise and say they're playing Tears of the Kingdom's their first entry, right? Do you think there should be an option to turn off things like which it may break the game because you would be able to like get to places that you shouldn't, but like environmental things? Do you think there should be an option just to toggle that off based on like, you're like, say you're a younger kid playing the game, right? Like, do you think there should be more options like that? Like, hey, how do you want to play the game? Like, are you just interested in the story, or like, do you want the full experience? Like, what's your thoughts on that?
Oh yeah. I mean, I think that. I mean, I don't care if someone wants to play through the game on the hardest difficulty or the easiest one. I do think that that's a good thing, actually, getting more people involved, whether they play it like that or not. I mean, because video games have they've definitely become a form of storytelling in the last 2 decades, longer, really, probably. Um, so, I mean, yeah, whatever it takes to get people to experience the story, I think if it takes someone playing on a story mode that presents little to no challenge, then yeah, go for it.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. But yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm trying to be more open minded about some games that I just feel are like not super accessible for me, just because I don't feel like I have the time or there's just too much content.
Yeah,
Like I love the Far Cry games and those have large maps, but I think they do a good job of like, allowing you to get from one place to the other, but also, because that's a combination of, on foot, in a vehicle, flying, paragliding, not paragliding,
parachuting,
wingsuiting,
wingsuiting.
parachuting, all sorts of like traverse, you know. However, you asked me though, Just Cause 3 map was way too big. But yeah, so I think it's just a matter of like, is the story good enough, and does it make you want to keep coming back regardless of the map size or the content?
Sure. Justin had a comment too. Says, I like the option to make it easier. I enjoy video games, but I suck at them. Yeah, I wish Elden Ring had an easy mode.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that's the thing. It's like, if anything, it's just going to bring people more into the fold that may not normally try that style of game, if they
Yeah,
know that if they can have a setting that they create that, or that just allows it to be much more accessible. And that's the cool thing I like about this Hi-Fi Rush game too. It's like, it asks you at the beginning, like, hey, do you just want to make it so that like the same button does all the things, so you can just play this like a regular just beat 'em up game? So, so they do a really good job catering to like, because some people are going to be terrible at rhythm games. You know what I mean? Like, it
yeah.
just depends. But yeah. All right. Well, anything else to add?
No.
Okay. All right. Well, moving forward, let's go ahead and get into talking about Sony's upcoming event, the State of Play, which is happening on May 24th. Um, there's not really been any concrete news, but you said there's some leaks around the event.
So there's always going to be leaks around this time. None of these have been verified. I do think it's a pretty safe bet to say that Spider-Man 2 will be seen. Not only that, I think we'll get a release date for later this year. Sony, or Insomniac rather, was asked today on Twitter if the game would have co-op, and they shut that down. They said no, it's a single-player game, so we can all be sad for a while. But we should get a release date for Spider-Man 2. I think we'll probably get a gameplay snippet for Wolverine, maybe. I imagine we'll see the Last of Us factions, um, and then we'll probably see some surprises. I think there's always a chance they could show something for Death Stranding 2 or the Ghost of Tsushima sequel. Um, Other than that, though, I don't know. I'd say we'll probably see some Final Fantasy 16. I mean, the game's not exclusive, but like it is, we know it's going to be. Um, yeah, I don't know. Is there anything you want to see, Travis?
Honestly, I I tell you, I'm really excited and anxious to see an update on Spider-Man, because I haven't really looked at a whole lot about that game. Like that, I am looking forward to, and also Wolverine, because once again, those were trailers that we've seen forever ago and really haven't got much news. I will tell you one thing that I would like to see is more news on the Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic remake.
That game's
Uh,
probably dead.
you think so?
Yeah, Jeff Grubb the other day tweeted that that game will probably never be released.
I know that they're anticipating them finally talking about multiplayer for The Last of Us. I know that's a big thing that they're expecting to see because that's supposedly been in development for a while.
Yep.
And then also multiplayer, like a multiplayer Horizon game from Gorilla, is also something that may be rumored to see as well. But I would really like to see something around Knights of the Old Republic. That's like my biggest thing. But now that you're going to bust my bubble like that, now I'm big sad.
Well, a report came out today. Looks like Kotaku posted this that Ubisoft's open world Star Wars game may be coming sooner than expected. So that's something to think about.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know, man. I just after playing Jedi Survivor, I don't know if I don't. I mean that game set the bar so high for me, and you got to finish that game, bro. I'm
I'm
telling
going
you.
to, yeah.
But other than that, I mean that's really it. I There's not really a whole lot like that I've been, and I'm also hoping that we see. Um, you think we'll see any more additional gameplay for Final Fantasy 16?
There were a bunch of previews that went out today to the different media outlets. I think it's possible we get something, or maybe even a follow up on Final Fantasy VII Part 2.
Yeah, I tell you, the biggest thing out of all the things is them to come out with some news of some kind of Game Pass competitor.
I mean, they
That's
have one. It's just not as good.
no, it's Dookie. I want them to announce some sort of big rehaul on that. Number one, that would be great. And I know we'll never see it, and hell will freeze over. But Game Pass to come to PlayStation would be great too.
What if they announce, this is just me playing a jerk. What if they go, hey guys, good news. Game Pass is coming to PlayStation, but it's for the streaming portion only. You can't download the games, you have to stream them.
I mean, I still would be mad about. I mean, obviously, I want the real thing, right? But like, I mean, that's better than nothing, right?
I guess, but I'm still not going to sit down to play like a 60-hour game
That
through
is true.
streaming. I mean, I'm not buying it. I know we're going to streaming at some point, but I'm not buying into that tech yet.
Yeah, and I know that they had announced that there was a third party company that Sony has a partnership around an indie. It's like Mortal Kombat One. I don't know if you've seen anything on it.
Yeah.
But that, and then also one of the things I forgot to mention. Well, two things. One, are we going to get an update on
SOCOM, I hope.
part two of Final Fantasy VII?
Yeah.
And then also, I didn't play the first one, but I know a lot of people are waiting to hear about Death Stranding 2 as well.
Yeah. I'm excited about that one.
Did you play Death Stranding?
Mm-hmm.
You didn't beat it. Don't even play.
I haven't beat it. No, I actually just started up a few months ago. I'm probably a little over halfway.
Okay.
It's a trip, man. It's totally, you wouldn't like it. You wouldn't like it.
I went like Walking Simulator.
The map's huge and it's not easy to get around. It's pretty terrible, pretty hard.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah. And
All
when one
right.
of those BTs jumps out at you and you're just like, well, I'd rather be dead than do this.
Oh, no. All right. Well, if there's nothing else to add, do you want to go ahead and move into not of approval?
Pick a what? Yeah, not
No.
of approval.
I know. I think Maxwell was a little upset when he was here, and we didn't get to say that. I think he died inside a little bit.
Everyone should be upset.
I mean, we could change it back.
No, I like not of approval. We're dignified now.
Yeah. So, did you have anything prepared for this section?
Yeah.
All right, good. Let us have it, dude.
Obviously, Tears of the Kingdom, but I'm not going to dive too deep into that. My actual nod of approval is going to be a record, an album that came out from, and I'm not going to say her name right, but it's Joy. I'm not going to say it right. Joy Alodikin. I'm probably not saying that right. Her new album came out August or April 28th. It's called Proof of Life. It is good from beginning to end. It's top notch. She has tracks on there with Manchester Orchestra, Chris Stapleton, if that's your thing, Noah Kahan, who I recently started listening to, who is freaking awesome. Actually, I'm going to say Noah Kahan's Stick Seasons on my nod of approval as well. Just two super solid albums. If you're going to pick one song to start with hers, listen to a song called You at the Table, featuring Manchester Orchestra. Manchester Orchestra is like my favorite band. And they actually don't really play a whole lot. They do like the music to it. They don't really sing in it, but that song, top notch, great intro song to ease you into her music. Yeah, that's my pick.
Okay. Well, I had already mentioned my earlier, but I even though I haven't beat it because I don't think the ending is going to let me down because the whole game has been good. But honestly, Hi-Fi Rush.
All right.
If you have Game Pass, there's no reason you shouldn't play this game because it's free on Game Pass. Um, I even played it over XCloud in bed last night on my phone with my controller for like an hour or so. I will say it's probably not the best way. You could do it, but playing a rhythm game over streaming probably not the best idea.
No.
But I was able to play mostly and do a good job. But yeah, I mean, Hi-Fi Rush, like it's like this cartoony comic design, very over the top. It's just it's I can't say I can't say like more good things about it. I mean, it's just you got to try it. I mean,
I'm gonna
if you
download it.
if you're not into rhythm games, like you might not like it, but it is unlike anything that I've played. And for them to just come out of the gate like with this studio, like this being the first in that type of series for them to do in that genre, and for them to deliver the product that they did is just it's so good. It's so good. But that's my nod of approval is Hi-Fi Rush, and you can either play it on, you can download it on Game Pass on PC or Xbox, so either one of those.
All right.
But yeah, that's my nod of approval. Justin, do you have anything before we get into closing?
I have nothing.
Well, you'll be here next week, but the following week is when you'll be gone.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to get a stand-in for me again. Going on vacation next week. We'll be talking about Barry in depth the whole season, right?
Yes, that'll be one. That'll be like probably that'll definitely be a big portion of the show. But we're also in the process of trying to stream some games while we're also having conversations. So we're going to work on that this week, and maybe have either some Legends of Zelda on the stream, or Justin really wants to do the Lego 2K game, so we may stream some of it as well. But also, that's a great segue. We would love to hear any topics or content that you would like for us to bring to you, our viewers and listeners. So please feel free to just reach out to us on any of our platforms. I spent last week updating a lot of our social medias. I updated our not our LinkedIn, our link tree. But also check out our website if you've not been. Like I said, I had posted an article up there yesterday around just my thoughts and feelings around open world games and does size matter. So go check that out, leave a comment. But with that being said, thanks for tuning in to episode 132 of Nerds with Mics.
Moix.
I'm parched. I'm running dry here on
What do you got there?
Aqua.
What are you drinking tonight?
Oh, this is boring. This is just sparkling water,
That
dude.
is boring.
Yeah, I know. But maybe next week we'll have a cocktail while we're streaming.
That's a great
I like
idea.
how you just like tilted. You're like, yeah, I got you. So as always, thank you. Just so you know, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube. You can also email us if that's what you're into at podcast@nerdswithmics.com. Once again, we want to hear from you, so please don't hesitate to reach out. Until next time, thank you very much. See you later.
See you.